inside of ZBrush here, we can do a couple of things. We can make an actual alpha, which is just an image that we can apply to really any brush that we want to. Or we can create an alpha brush. So we can have a dedicated brush that has an alpha applied to that particular brush. So all you'd have to do is open the brush, the alpha would be attached to it, and you could apply your alpha that way. The first way I mentioned, if you just create a alpha image, you have to apply that, manually apply it to whichever brush you want to use. Typically we use the standard brush, but you could use the clay or clay buildup brushes just as easily when applying alphas. Now understand that using other brushes, particular brushes, will affect the way the alpha is applied. All right, so that is something worth experimenting with. So what I'm going to do right here is just show you quickly how we can make a very simple alpha brush, or sorry, not a brush, but just a simple alpha image. So all I've got right here is a rock. Okay, so we'll call this a rock. It's got it's like a pile of rocks right here. Okay, and what's important to note about how you make an alpha is it's important to understand that how your alpha is sitting in world space is how the alpha will be created. So if I, have the alpha sitting this way, this is what's going to be created when I create the alpha. It's going to be looking at the height information, all right, from high to low. So I'm going to place my alpha this way, and it should be noted that it matters too that how big it is in your on your canvas. So if I push it back really small, it's going to be a real small alpha. If I pull it up a lot closer, it's going to be a lot bigger. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this right here, and I'm going to come over to my alpha palette right here, my alpha palette right here, alpha. All right, there's my alpha palette right there. And I'm going to come down to where it says transfer. We'll open that up. And all I'm going to do is hit grab dock. And as soon as I hit grab dock, I want you to notice right here what we get. So I'm going to hit grab dock. And there you go. You can see right there, an alpha image has been created. All right. So I've got my alpha brush selected. And it should be noted as well that if I change brushes, I lose that alpha. I mean, I haven't lost it. It's right there. But it is now sort of associated with that standard brush because that's the brush I had loaded when I created the alpha. So we've got a brush. We've got now an alpha that we created through grab dock. And I'm going to come up here and use the drag rectangle. I'll go ahead and bring out a piece of geometry here. And let's go ahead and apply that alpha. So I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag. And there we go. So there's that alpha, which again was this rock right here. All right. Here it is now applied to this piece of geometry. Should be noted that with alphas, they pull straight up. There are no, on your standard alpha, there are no undercuts at all. It just pulls straight up. Okay. So if I undo that and I increase my Z intensity, all right, that'll be a lot stronger. Okay, it'll pull a lot higher. Let's put that down there. And alternately, if we lower our intensity, same thing. It's going to be a lot less intensive. Okay, so there you go. So that's creating a simple alpha. Let's go ahead and take something like this right here, which is just a plane. Let me hit F to frame it. All I've got here is a plane with a bunch of rocks sort of sculpted onto the top of it. You can see that it's got highs and lows, all right? And that's exactly what an alpha needs. It needs highs and lows, all right? So let me go ahead and frame this up a little bit bigger right here, something like that, all right? And again, I'm going to go over to my alpha palette right here, come down to transfer and say grab dock, and you'll notice up here that the image will change. Again, I also have my standard brush selected, so let's go ahead and hit grab dock. There you go. All right, if I go back to my sphere right here and make sure that I have drag rectangle selected, I'm going to watch my intensity. And there's going to be a particular problem with this particular kind of alpha. You'll see right here because of the square edges. So if I click and drag, you can see It does give us these square edges right here, but we can fix that. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can fix that. I'm going to undo this. In our modify palette, again with the in the alpha palette under modify, I'm going to open that up, and we have several things in here that can help us to make that alpha, make this particular alpha look a lot better. Now, a lot of the stuff in here, you know, is kind of straightforward. Intensity and strength, you understand that. Um, Noise will add some visible noise. All right, you can see that visible noise right there onto the model, onto the alpha. All right, let's undo that. And with the noise, a little goes a long way. So if it's at 0, let's type in something like 0.5. Okay, 0.5 and hit enter. Oops, I guess you can't do points, you have to do 1. So 1, drag it out. And again, still, you can see that it does have some surface noise on it. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Blur, obviously, we'll blur it. The ones that we want to talk about right here are max. If we click on max, and again, if we hold control and look at it, it'll tell us what that is. And it really just pushes the darks and the lows. You can see on here that the white is going to be pulled up, black is going to be pulled down. If we hit max right there, it's just going to amplify that a little bit more. Okay, and let's go ahead and make sure noise is off. Okay, anti-aliasing, you can try that. Okay, it doesn't do much. All right, but really what we're looking for right here is the mid value, the radial fade, and the contrast. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the mid value. The radial fade. So if we look at our image right here, and I adjust the radial fade, you'll notice that the edges of that square will start to soften. Okay, a little bit, and we don't want to go too far with the radial fade. So let's go ahead and see what that gives us. Right there. All right, and it does start to soften the edges a little bit on there. We can try moving the mid value up and laying that out. And you can see what that does. It's not quite what we're looking for. All right, so let's go ahead and bring that back down. All right. How about the contrast? Let's bring the contrast up a little bit. All right, I can see that that's starting to eliminate the edge. So let's bring it up a little bit more. Let's try 3. Okay, and click and drag, and there we go. So now we've gotten rid of that square edge around there, and we can use our drag rectangle to go ahead and just place that our alpha where we want, as many times as we want. Don't forget, we can also use in our stroke palette here, we can use something like the drag dots. So we can click and drag and just place those where we want. Again, the size of it's going to be determined by the size of our brush. Okay, so we can move that and place it. There we go. Now, if you want to make sure that we save the changes that we made to this alpha through the radial fade and the contrast, if we want to keep those changes, we need to come down here to transfer and make modified alpha. So we do that, and now we have those changes now are set in stone, so to speak. And if we want to export this, we'll go ahead and export this. It's going to export as a PSD document, and you should go ahead and put it in your applications folder, ZBrush 4R8. And if you come down here to Z alphas, you can go ahead and put it in here. We'll call this Rocky, R-O-C-K, Rocky Alpha. I don't know. Okay. Oops. And let's call this Rocky Alpha 01. It's a PSD document. It's going to be in our Z alphas folder, and that will now put it in our lightbox. So if we come in here and go to alphas, and let's go ahead and scroll along here. All right, and these are usually alphabetical. So let's see. Oh, there we go right there. There's our Rocky Alpha 01 that we just created. So we can grab that at any time and apply it to our a brush, select a stroke, and you should be good to go. All right, so that is creating an alpha image and saving it right there. In the next video, we're going to look at creating an actual alpha brush, where the alpha is actually applied to a brush, and all the settings are set for us. All we have to do is select that brush and draw it on there, and the alpha is created. Okay, that'll be in the next